You said to start
okay.
and then come out.
Zoom in. A little ray of hope, man. You just can't believe it. Really tired, John. Really shot. Sheb, you can relax. Okay.
The character I play is haunted by what happened to him, and he's forced into a position of defending himself. He's an unwilling target for almost anybody he meets.
Red thing's too hot over there.
The Indian blanket.
We built this trading post, and we wanted a dark look, kind of a natural look, not very lit. And this is when the two men try to get Josey for the bounty. We were lucky we had Chief Dan George for the role of Lone Waddy. That's the Indian who travels along with Josey in the film.
Then you turn to her. No offense.
The Chief's 76, but that hasn't hurt his timing one bit.
Okay, one more time, Madeline. Don't look at the mark, please. Okay. Action.
We covered a lot of ground in this production. This time we're set up on the sides of the Feather River in Northern California. That's gold rush territory. Actually, this is just in place of the Missouri River or Mississippi, someplace in the south. It's a scene when the Redlegs come close to catching Josey at a ferry crossing. I've always felt this character was the type of man who could survive anything. And in order to start over again, he had to take violent measures. Not only for vengeance, but to save his own life. We built this village where I meet 10 bears. Josey and he know each other by reputation. I wanted that feeling that anything could happen, that Indians weren't necessarily savages. I wanted that reality. Will Sampson plays 10 bears. He was the chief in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He was an artist and just turned to acting a few years ago. We scheduled several days to do this sequence with rehearsals and filming.
What? No, you have to keep cocking it.
Okay, Chief.
We blocked out the different positions for the cameras, and at the same time, I had everybody run through their lines and actions.
Just fall back a little bit shy.
The guys start coming in on the right, guys start coming in on the left. You don't even have to motion to them either. They just come in automatically. It's all been pre-planned, okay?
Then comes the moment I have to step in front of the camera, and we're ready to shoot.
Wow!
Cut it! And marker.
Like a ground zero here.
If you really have a story you want to tell and it's a good story, then you just tell it the best you can and you hope it finds an audience. In the 70s wasn't a big time for Westerns as far as the Hollywood trend is concerned, but it was a good time for me. It was submitted as a blind submission from Arkansas. It was called Whippoorwill Publishing Companies, and they'd published 75 copies of this book called The Rebel Outlaw Josey Wales. And it had such a bad cover on it that I never really read it right away. I had it sitting on my desk for about 2 weeks. I read it the next night, and then I read it, and I just fell in love with it right away and wanted to make it right away. The thing that impressed me about the book was the whole treatment of war in general and the futility of it, and how it not only destroys a lot of people's lives in combat, but everybody around them.
My character was a marauder. He had been in probably the Civil War, gotten a taste of blood and rape, pillage, and plunder.
The Civil War was such a strange war to begin with. It was the first war that we've ever had where it was Americans against Americans, and just strictly the location of where you live dictated as to what side you were on.
When I did my research into that period and those characters, I was struck how young these soldiers were, a lot of these kids that joined up.
That's quite evident after the first 10 or 12 days that the original director was let go. Clint stopped for a few days, repositioned himself and directed it, and came in 8 days early.
I'd been brought up with the Italian approach to the Western, which was much more high opera than some of ours, and there was no real attempt to make it truly realistic.
What he sees in the story and the character is what sets him off. I mean, he's looking at the character he's going to be.
My character in the thing, Josey Wales, had been completely stripped of all family, and it seemed. And then, of course, they have the irony of, as he goes along, he keeps building family. from dogs to this older Indian companion. I think he accepts him, but it's with some reticence because he's had so much disappointment in his life to this point because of the war and losing his family, etc. But I think that eventually he feels it's the right thing to do because most of these people are in jeopardy in some form or another.
When I got cast, they said, oh, you can use Navajo, you can say whatever you want. It was what the character was saying, trying to be real about it and natural about what would have happened to this character? What would she have said? You had to bring that reality to the table. I think that was the real important part about my role as Moonlight in this film.
Well, I wanted the treatment of the Native American to have more than just the cliche that had been presented in the past, where you have the Indian treated as a very stoic personality without much sense of humor, and this one was the first story I'd read where they were treated with humor.
I thought that the Native American characters were sensitively written. He wanted to cast real Native Americans. He made an extra effort to cast Dan George, Will Sampson, and myself.
It was one of the first really strong, heroic portrayals of American Indian people.
And it's good to see that happen because you show the backbone and you show the honesty of these people.
It made them non-Indians. They were people.
The Native Americans really embraced this film because they saw themselves on the screen.
I had only seen him in one picture. He was in Little Big Man, and he was very impressive then. He had a wonderful face.
He was just the most wonderful human being to work with.
I mean, I couldn't see anybody else on the screen except Chief Dan George when he was in the scene.
He wasn't a technical actor. He was a guy who had a great look and a great voice and was kind of a natural. And if you could get to his natural state, you could get to him where he was just thinking and speaking normally, he was absolutely golden. But at the beginning, everybody was trying to get him cue cards and all that sort of thing. Well, you know, a man in his 80s is not going to be able to read a cue card, especially riding on a horseback.
Are you holding headroom here? Yeah. Okay, I'll come down with him then. He'll tell me, when you hit the ground, you tell me, be winded, Chief. You've been riding hard.
I had a friend of mine kind of grill him on his dialogue and just grill him. Then I'd tell him, I'd say, okay, Chief, and I'd say, forget about the dialogue now. Just forget about all that. Just tell me the story about how when the guy came over the hill and he met the lady and such happened. I just kind of repeat the story and just have him tell it like it is, like he's telling a story around a campfire. And then he'd be brilliant. A movie can either be like a family or it can be a bunch of people at conflict with one another. But this movie, everybody liked the script, everybody liked their character, and everybody worked very, very hard.
We'd go down sometimes to this restaurant down from the Perry Lodge in Kanab and have a big dinner together and have a lot of fun.
Clint had very loyal people that came to work for him time and time again.
The closest thing you could connect it with would be the Ford Company with John Wayne and all those people. That kind of had a quality of that. I liked it very much.
Well, the fall part of the year is my favorite light for photographing.
He loves the autumn look because you have a low-cast sun in the sky and you get a lot of color.
The fall seems to be nice for sort of half-lighting faces and sort of backlighting people and keeping an interesting look. We shot in quite a few different parts of the country with this particular film.
They were all over the place trying to get the distinct looks for each of those locales.
By the time we reached Northern California, it was sort of overcast and winter was setting in. So that gave us a one look for the opening. We did that last. September, early October, we were down in northern Arizona, southern Utah. And that gave us another look.
We're in an area where they used to mine coal. So the top part of the ground was all this coal dust. And the ground was just covered with this black sand. And, that wind would whip up and it would just roar through those valleys. But you were out there.
My part of the film took place in the fall after they filmed out at Utah. And we shot it up in Northern California near Oroville. We'd had some rain. The soil was nice and damp. The fall leaves were on the trees and sort of winter coming in the air. You could feel that crisp in the morning. The smell of the campfire was nice. The livestock, working on the on a Western that time of year. There's nothing like it.
This shot is Clint riding off after McKinney.
Into the sunset.
One. Is that the one that shot? Okay, now we'll buy this film and we'll use it for the picture. We won't have to shoot the picture.
You have to have your stuff together, the night before you go in, because it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of concentration.
Look around down here on the ground. Get out of here, chicken out, man. Okay, how'd that work?
Fine.
And marker.
Huh?
I really like the handheld. With this action stuff, it's a lot better.
Be handheld.
Okay.
Use the area or the Betaflex.
Then we'll go around behind him and tie in the shot where I nail him and he'll go frame. He just says, we're going to do this. Now you're going to roll over here, and we're going to come over here with a camera. And he takes his hands. It's really, you see the camera just going to tip it up here like this as you hit the floor. My left right here. I'll come up to him. I'm kind of going with his shoulder right here. He'll peel off.
And there's a fall right here.
Two cameras.
Right, and you're on the ground when you shoot him?
Yeah, one I can be. One you can be tied in.
Play with the weeds again.
Pistola here, and then we
Get on your
handheld.
horse, Jimmy. Off a shot, and as the horse gets enough there, he'll just flop into here. Okay, Jimmy?
What I do when I get a sequence like that is I just sort of try to think out a plan in mind, and then I just start kind of working my way through it.
Another one will just duck out.
Okay, great.
We can find
Great. I'll be down here right next to the handheld guy, and I'll be in the shot. I need a belt gun too.
Okay, I got mine. Can we see you in your position, please?
How is this when I come around this way?
That's good.
Tell me if it's running again.
All right. Action, fellas. Cut it. Cut it. See, big camera, Margaret.
Okay. We're good. Okay, next man. Very good. That looked good.
The way they handled that whole day was just incredible with the horses and the stuntmen.
Don't get fooled by Ben. He may not bite the dust right away. He's going to rear his horse a little bit. Okay. These two guys on the left, our left of Terrell, will go first.
Everybody ready? Everybody set.
I had to bring myself on horseback out to the front part of the ranch. He's leaving early in the morning, the plot line is.
Come ahead! Come ahead!
Then they come riding in, then they sort of line up, and there's all the suspended time build-up before the action sequence actually takes place.
Hey, how's that work?
Got it?
That was perfect.
We had that whole shootout where everybody was shooting out of the holes.
Help him with the door, okay? When you hear Chief, fire a shot, Chief. Say no, we're gonna shoot a fail face or something. No offense.
It was hanging right there.
No offense meant to Granny back here. No offense meant. She goes, I'm taking, and she goes over here and starts shooting all you.
It took, I think, days to plan, but then when the cameras rolled, everything just went pop, pop, pop.
Coming from the acting side of the business, it becomes very easy because I understand the language, I understand the securities and insecurities of being an actor.
He's more of an observer. He doesn't have to use a lot of words to express his direction.
I talk to the actors and try to make them feel extremely comfortable and make sure they have a very good knowledge of the character they're playing.
Remember this scar on my face? He said, "You're the guy that gave me this scar," and that's all he had to say.
The big trick to directing films is not to over-tamper.
He believes, and he tells everybody, he tells me too, go with your first instinct. Don't have second thoughts about it. Go with your first instinct.
He taught me just to be natural.
If he didn't like it, he'd do it again. So you try something different. But he allowed you to find in yourself probably what he wanted you to do. And I think that's the mark of a great director.
We had quite a few actors who were in their 80s in this picture. And sometimes they'd maybe have a little trouble with some of the dialogue or getting it out. So I did a lot of improvisation. But until that happened, they were used to saying the dialogue exactly. And I'd find myself in the scene with them, and I'd be rooting for them so hard I'd be mouthing their dialogue. And finally, the assistant cameraman came to me and he says, you know, he says, you're moving your lips along with the other actor. And I said, okay. I said, I see I'm not in my character yet. I haven't thrown the switch back. So I came back in and started, you know, get back into the thing.
They said, oh, yeah, this is the scene you're going to get beaten in. And it was, I didn't know how, you know, how do you act?
I don't know what her thoughts were on doing an action sequence, whether they thought they were really going to beat her with a stick for real. But that didn't happen. I just kind of showed her how we would do that and how we would do it in cuts if there was anything major, so that you wouldn't actually have to be brutally beaten.
They put some padding on me, and they told me how to lie on the outside of the trading post, and the trader has this paddle and just comes at me, and I remember him whispering in my ear. He says, I'll try and take it easy on you. And so when they yelled action, he started in, and it was a nice, soft, gentle blow, and then all of a sudden I heard, hit her harder.
Hit her harder.
More, faster.
It was just like, pow, pow.
Stay down low, Charlie, and we'll get this in one thing. And
here we go.
Roll, please. We won't have to whomp her anymore.
Speed. Marker.
The gold thing, just grit that out. Okay, action. Like spilling, boom. Look around, honey. Slowly, look up at the man on horseback. Stay looking. Cut.
I think it did the trick for the film. I mean, it didn't hurt me at all. I mean, I was fine.
Got it! Hey, markers! Hey, camera!
Okay, now back off enough to where you can catch him right here.
Special effects.
Bob McDonald.
What's the score on this knife that tricks, by the way?
There's a hole here. We'll inject the blood, and you just squeeze the handle, and the blood will come out of this hole. And as you go to press down.
It just kind of goes like that. Otherwise, you have to point the hole in here.
And roll, please.
Speed. Marker.
And action. Right.
When you're making a film, you sort of hear a sound to it. A film takes on a look and it takes on a sound, and the score is certainly part of that sound. Well, Jerry was a terrific composer that I hadn't worked with too many times prior to that. I did subsequent to that film. He never quite got the recognition that he deserved along the way. He did receive an Academy Award nomination for the score of the Outlaw Josey Wales.
Action slated, printed, shoot.
Right. Yeah.
Shelve it.
Quiet. Roll, please.
In editing, he comes in there, he knows the film, he knows the story concept completely, all the actors, and he comes right in. It's decisions, and decisions.
Well, it stands the test of time.
Characters and situations, quite unique.
The fact that Josey goes out of his way to help others is what makes it an incredible experience to watch.
He creates this party of individuals that all begin to care and open up to one another and care for themselves.
The man who's been down dusts himself off and then helps his fellow friend. That's a great lesson to observe in life.
The honesty, the simplicity, the backbone of it, the whole thing is a very straight-up film.
And I think that film can stand on its own against any other Western that was ever made.
Well, it's meant a lot to me because it's one of the, probably more than any other film I've done, it's caused more nostalgia among viewers. I've had more viewers come up, and even today, as people come up and say, "Oh yeah, that's my favorite, absolute favorite Western," and even with Unforgiven, which was an extremely successful film, and I always felt if Josey Wales was released today, maybe it would have had the same recognition as Unforgiven.
I've got months of this and I love it.